Let me start by confessing something. I never thought I'd be writing this post. 3 days ago, my girlfriend of 4 years accused me of cheating on her because I was working late. I wasn't cheating, slept with my best friend as revenge, and is now in the hospital expecting me to pay her medical bills. And the worst part? Almost all our friends are telling me I'm the jerk for not helping her. Life really does come at you fast. I'm still in shock. One moment we were planning our future together, and the next, I'm blocked on all social media, my phone is blowing up with hate messages from her family, and my best friend won't even look me in the eye. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My girlfriend Melissa and I met in college. We were the couple everyone thought would make it. We moved in together after graduation, got jobs in the same city, and even started talking about marriage. She was smart, beautiful, and had this infectious laugh that could light up any room. But she could also be jealous. Really jealous. It started small. Questions about female coworkers, checking my phone when I was in the shower, demanding to know who I was texting. I brushed it off as insecurity. Her dad had cheated on her mom when she was younger, and I figured she just needed reassurance. I had nothing to hide, so I was an open book. About 6 months ago, I got a promotion at work. I'm in software development, and our team was launching a major project that would make or break my career. The hours were brutal. I'd leave at 7 a.m. and sometimes not get home until 9 or 10 p.m. Melissa was supportive at first, but as weeks went by, her attitude changed. "Who works that late every night?" she'd ask. "Is she pretty? Your project manager?" My project manager is a 58-year-old man named Dave with a Santa beard and 3 grandkids, but facts didn't seem to matter. The accusations became more frequent. She'd call me at work repeatedly, and if I didn't answer immediately, I'd come home to a cold shoulder or a full-blown argument. Last Friday, everything imploded. We had a huge project deadline, and I texted her that I'd be home late again. She responded with a single K. Anyone who's been in a relationship knows that's not a good sign. When I finally got home around 11 p.m., exhausted and proud we hit our deadline, the apartment was dark. I figured she'd gone to bed. I quietly made myself a sandwich, showered, and slipped into bed beside her. The next morning, I woke up to Melissa standing over me, my phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. "I knew it," she said, her voice shaking. "I knew you were cheating." She'd gone through my phone while I was sleeping and found messages from a coworker named Amber thanking me for helping her with some code and saying we made a great team. Completely professional, work-related texts. I tried explaining that Amber was just a colleague I'd been mentoring, that the texts were about the project we'd just completed, but Melissa wasn't listening. She threw my phone at the wall, breaking the screen, and stormed out. I followed her to the living room, trying to reason with her, but she just screamed that she wasn't stupid and that I should just admit it. When I wouldn't confess to something I hadn't done, she grabbed her purse and said, "Fine. 2 can play this game," and left. I tried calling her all day, but she wouldn't pick up. I figured she needed space to cool off, so I gave it to her. That night, around 2 a.m., she came home drunk. I was still up, worried sick about her. Before I could say anything, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "I just slept with Jake." Jake. My best friend since high school. The guy who was supposed to be my best man someday. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. I couldn't breathe. I asked her if she was serious, hoping it was just a cruel joke. "Dead serious," she slurred. "He's way better in bed than you, by the way. Maybe if you'd been home more often instead of screwing your office slut, you'd know how to satisfy a woman." I've never felt pain like that. It wasn't just the betrayal from her, but from Jake too. Someone who knew me better than almost anyone. I grabbed my keys and left. I couldn't be in the same room as her. I drove around for hours, eventually ending up at a 24-hour diner where I sat drinking coffee until sunrise. That's when the texts started coming in. First from Melissa, "I'm sorry baby, I was drunk and hurt, please come home, I love you." Then from Jake, "Man, we need to talk. It's not what you think." Then from Melissa's sister, "You're a cheating piece of garbage. My sister deserves better." I turned off my phone and checked into a cheap motel. I needed time to think. By Sunday evening, I'd made a decision. I went back to our apartment to pack some clothes. Melissa was there, red-eyed and apologetic. "I made a horrible mistake," she cried. "I was just so sure you were cheating on me. I wanted to hurt you the way you hurt me." "But I wasn't cheating," I said. "And even if you thought I was, you went to my best friend? Of all people?" She sobbed harder. "I was drunk and angry. Jake was at the bar, and it just happened. He tried to stop it, but I was persistent. Please, please forgive me." I told her I needed space and that I'd be staying with my brother for a while. She begged me not to leave, clinging to my arm, promising to do anything to fix things. As I was walking out the door, she said something that chilled me. "I could have gone to anyone, but I chose Jake because I knew it would hurt you the most." That sentence told me everything I needed to know about who she really was. I stayed at my brother's place and went to work on Monday, trying to focus despite feeling like my life had exploded. Jake called me 17 times. I ignored every call. Melissa texted nonstop apologies and explanations. I muted the conversation. Then Tuesday morning happened. I was in an early meeting when my phone started blowing up. Calls from Melissa's mom, her sister, even her roommate from college. I stepped out to take a call from her mom. "Melissa's in the hospital," she said, her voice tense. "She had an allergic reaction last night. She's stable now, but the bills are going to be significant. She says you'll understand why you need to help pay them." I was confused. Yes, Melissa had a severe peanut allergy, but she was always extremely careful. I asked what happened. Apparently, she'd ordered takeout from a new Thai restaurant and hadn't mentioned her allergy. By the time she realized something was wrong, her EpiPen had expired. She'd been rushed to the ER and treated. She was okay, but without insurance. She'd recently switched jobs and was in the waiting period before her new benefits kicked in. The bill was over $8,000. "She says since you're still together, you should help cover it," her mom said. "She's very upset that you haven't even come to see her." I was speechless. After what she'd done, she expected me to pay her medical bill? And she was telling her family we were still together. "We're not together," I said finally. "She slept with my best friend 3 days ago." I moved out. There was a long pause. "Melissa said you cheated first. With someone from work." Of course she did. I explained everything, the late nights, the project deadline, the innocent texts she'd misinterpreted, how I'd never been unfaithful. Her mom was quiet for a moment. "I believe you," she said finally. "But she's still my daughter, and she needs help with this bill." I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't do it. Not after what happened. Not when we were clearly over. That's when the flood began. Within hours, mutual friends were texting me, telling me how heartless I was. Jake even had the audacity to call and say I should be the bigger person and help Melissa because she's going through a lot right now. The betrayal of my girlfriend sleeping with my best friend was bad enough. But the expectation that I should still financially support her, that was beyond comprehension. So here I am, Reddit. My girlfriend accused me of cheating, slept with my best friend as revenge, and now wants me to pay her hospital bill. Almost everyone is acting like I'm the villain for refusing. Am I taking crazy pills here? Am I really the jerk in this situation? Update, 24 hours later. I honestly didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you for all the supportive comments. Reading through them has helped me feel less crazy during what has been one of the worst weeks of my life. Many of you asked for more details about why friends are taking her side, so here goes. Melissa has apparently been telling everyone that she caught me cheating and was in such a dark place that she made a mistake with Jake. According to her, I abandoned her when she was having a crisis, and now I'm punishing her by refusing to help with medical bills that she can't afford. The story she's telling paints her as the heartbroken victim who made one bad choice while distraught, and me as the cold, uncaring cheater who's now using her health crisis as revenge. And unfortunately, a lot of people are buying it. As someone pointed out in the comments, it's much easier for our friends to accept her version because it's neater. If I'm the bad guy who cheated first, they don't have to reckon with the fact that someone they care about did something terrible for no justified reason. Jake finally got through to me yesterday. He came to my brother's place without warning. I almost shut the door in his face, but decided to hear him out. His story was interesting. According to Jake, he was at a bar with some work friends when Melissa showed up already drunk. She told him I was cheating and started crying. He says he tried to comfort her as a friend, but she kept ordering shots and getting more upset. She kissed me first, he said, not meeting my eyes. I know I should have stopped it, but she was saying all these things about how you didn't want her anymore, and how she needed to feel desired. Man, I was drunk too, and I made a terrible mistake. When I asked why he didn't call me first to verify her story about me cheating, he had no answer. When I asked why he thought it was okay to sleep with my girlfriend of 4 years under any circumstances, he mumbled something about a moment of weakness. The kicker? He finished by saying, "But she's really sorry, and so am I. We both love you, man. And she really does need help with that hospital bill. Her credit is already bad from student loans." I told him to get out. Even my brother, who's letting me crash at his place, asked me last night if I was sure I wasn't overreacting. People make mistakes, he said. And medical debt is serious. I'm standing my ground, but it's hard when it feels like the whole world has gone insane. The only people firmly on my side are my parents and a couple of friends from work who've never particularly liked Melissa. Turns out they saw through her jealous behavior long before I did. Oh, and after several of you suggested it, I checked our shared accounts. Thankfully, we never got around to opening a joint bank account, but we did have a shared credit card for household expenses. She's already racked up $500 at Target and Sephora since all this happened. I've closed the account. Melissa's sister came by my office today. She cornered me in the parking lot and accused me of being financially abusive by cutting Melissa off when she's vulnerable. I reminded her that we're not married, we're not even together anymore, and I have zero obligation to pay for anything in Melissa's life. She made a mistake because she was hurt by your infidelity, her sister insisted. You're really going to let her medical condition go untreated over your pride? I explained again that I never cheated, but she just rolled her eyes. Whatever helps you sleep at night, she said. Just know that if her condition worsens because she can't afford follow-up care, that's on you. The guilt trips are relentless. But as many of you pointed out, this isn't about the money. It's about the complete lack of accountability. No one seems to consider that maybe, just maybe, Melissa should face consequences for 1. Falsely accusing me of cheating. 2. Deliberately sleeping with my best friend to hurt me. 3. Admitting she specifically chose him because it would cause maximum pain. 4. Lying to everyone about what actually happened. 5. Expecting me to financially support her after all of this. I'll keep you updated as this unfolds. Right now, I'm focusing on finding a new apartment and rebuilding my life piece by piece. Update, 1 week later. Things have escalated in ways I never imagined. I'm typing this from a hotel room because I no longer feel safe at my brother's place. Let me explain. 3 days ago, I was served with papers. Melissa is suing me for the hospital bills, claiming we had an implied domestic partnership and shared financial responsibility. Her lawyer's letter states that since we lived together for over 3 years and I repeatedly made verbal commitments to her care and well-being, I'm obligated to cover her medical expenses. I immediately contacted a lawyer who assured me this is a desperate reach and unlikely to hold up in court, but still advised me to gather evidence of our separate finances and to document everything from now on. The same day, Melissa showed up at my workplace. Security had to escort her out when she started screaming in the lobby about how I was letting her die by not helping with her medical bills. My boss called me into his office afterward and gently suggested I handle my personal issues before they impact the workplace. Jake has now done a complete 180. After our confrontation, he apparently went straight to Melissa and they've now decided they're a couple. He posted on Facebook that he's always cared for this amazing woman and that sometimes it takes a crisis to realize who truly matters in your life. Several mutual friends commented about what a wonderful man he is for stepping up when I abandoned Melissa. I haven't responded publicly to any of this. My lawyer advised against it, and honestly, I'm too exhausted to engage. But it gets worse. Last night, someone broke the window of my car while it was parked at my brother's place. Nothing was stolen, but there was a note on the driver's seat that said "Pay up or the next one's your face." I filed a police report, but without proof of who did it. They just took down the information and said they'd keep an eye out. My brother, who until now had been somewhat neutral about the whole situation, finally saw how unhinged this was getting. He suggested I stay somewhere else temporarily, just to be safe. Some of you might be wondering why Melissa is so fixated on getting this money from me specifically. I found out through a mutual friend that her new insurance won't cover pre-existing conditions for the first 6 months, and her allergy treatments will be ongoing. She's looking at thousands more in medical bills, and apparently, she and Jake have already been rejected for a personal loan because of their credit scores. The most surreal part. Yesterday, Melissa's mother called me. Unlike her previous call where she seemed somewhat understanding, this time she was cold and businesslike. "I know what my daughter did was wrong," she said, "but she could have died." Her throat was closing up when the ambulance arrived. "As someone who once claimed to love her, how can you be so cruel?" I tried explaining that while I'm sorry about her medical emergency, I'm not responsible for it, especially after what happened. She cut me off. "Let me be clear," she said. "If you don't help with these bills, we'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Melissa has text messages from you promising to always take care of her. How do you think that will look to a judge?" Those texts were from years ago, when we first moved in together and were talking about our future. They weren't a legal contract. But the threat was clear: they're willing to manipulate anything to pressure me. I've blocked Melissa, Jake, and most of our mutual friends on all platforms. I've spoken to HR at work about the situation in case she shows up again. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional toll this is taking. The support from this community has been a lifeline. So many of you have shared similar stories of exes who tried to manipulate you after betrayal, and it helps knowing I'm not alone. The advice about documentation and legal protection has been invaluable. Someone asked in the comments if I've considered just paying the bill to make this all go away. I've thought about it. $8,000 is a lot, but I could technically afford it. But as many of you pointed out, this isn't about money anymore. It's about principle, and it's about setting boundaries. If I give in now, what's to stop her from manufacturing another crisis next month? I'll update again when there are significant developments. For now, I'm focusing on staying safe, following my lawyer's advice, and trying to maintain my sanity in a situation that feels increasingly like a nightmare I can't wake up from. Update, 1 month later. It's been a month since my last update, and while things aren't perfect, they've certainly shifted. I've moved into my own apartment now, a small 1-bedroom across town. It costs more than my share of rent with Melissa did, but the peace of mind is worth every penny. The lawsuit Melissa threatened never materialized. My lawyer sent a strongly worded letter to her and her mother outlining the potential consequences of filing frivolous lawsuits and making threats. Apparently, it was enough to make them reconsider their approach. What did happen, though, was a dramatic shift in our social circle. About 2 weeks after my last update, Jake and Melissa had a very public fight at a birthday party for one of our mutual friends. According to several people who were there, Jake accused Melissa of using him and Melissa screamed that he was just as worthless as I was. They broke up that night. The next morning, Jake showed up at my brother's place, not knowing I'd moved, with a handwritten letter of apology and the offer to pay back half of Melissa's hospital bill as a gesture of remorse. My brother, to his credit, didn't give him my new address but told him he could leave the letter. I read it. It was 5 pages of self-flagellation and excuses. The gist: he'd been secretly attracted to Melissa for years but respected our relationship. When she came to him saying I cheated, he saw an opportunity and took it. He now realizes she was manipulating him too, and he's lost his best friend over a lie. He ended by begging for forgiveness and a chance to rebuild our friendship. I haven't responded. Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear him out in person, but right now, the wound is still too fresh. As for Melissa, she apparently found another way to cover her medical bills. Through the grapevine, I heard that her parents ultimately paid them, despite initially pressuring me. But the interesting part is what happened after. 3 of our mutual friends, people who initially believed her version of events, reached out to me separately to apologize. Each had a different story about catching Melissa in a lie. One had noticed inconsistencies and when she claimed to have caught me cheating. Another had heard her admit while drunk that she might have overreacted to some text messages. The third had simply observed her behavior with Jake and recognized the manipulation. The social tide has definitely turned. Even her sister sent me a brief text saying, "I still think you could have helped with the bills, but I'm sorry for how I approached you." I now understand there was more to the story than Melissa told me. Work has been a bright spot. I channeled all my emotional turmoil into that big project, and my boss noticed. I've been put in charge of the next phase with a small raise. The team has been supportive, and a few colleagues who heard about the workplace incident have gone out of their way to include me in after-work activities. I've also been going to therapy consistently, which has been eye-opening. My therapist pointed out patterns in my relationship with Melissa that I'd been blind to, how I'd excused her jealousy and controlling behavior, how I'd taken responsibility for managing her emotions, how I'd lost connections with friends who tried to point out these issues. It's difficult work, but necessary. The most unexpected development came last week. I was grocery shopping when I ran into Melissa's mother. I tried to avoid her, but she approached me directly. She looked tired and much older than I remembered. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "Melissa has been staying with us since she and Jake broke up, and, well, I've seen some behaviors that concern me. I think she needs help that goes beyond what we can provide." She explained that Melissa had been having extreme mood swings, making accusations against neighbors, and even claimed a coworker was stalking her, allegations that proved unfounded. They were looking into getting her psychological evaluation. "I should have questioned her story about you more thoroughly," she admitted. "It's just hard when it's your child. You want to believe them." I told her I understood and appreciated her apology. She asked if I would consider talking to Melissa as part of her healing process. I declined as gently as I could, explaining that I needed to maintain boundaries for my own well-being. She nodded sadly and said she respected my decision. As I was leaving, she touched my arm and said, "For what it's worth, you were the best thing that ever happened to her." I'm sorry she couldn't see that. That interaction brought up complicated feelings. Part of me still cares about Melissa's well-being, we spent 4 years together, after all. But another part recognizes that her problems run deeper than I ever understood, and they're not mine to fix. Last night, I went on my first date since everything happened. Nothing serious, just coffee with a woman I met through a friend. We talked for 3 hours, and not once did I feel like I needed to explain myself or defend innocent interactions. It was refreshing and a reminder that healthy relationships do exist. I'm not naive enough to think this chapter is completely closed. Life rarely wraps up so neatly. Melissa still has my old gaming console and some clothes. Jake still has a signed baseball I lent him years ago that has sentimental value. There may be future interactions I can't avoid. But for now, I'm focusing on rebuilding. My new apartment is slowly becoming home. I've reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my relationship. I'm exploring hobbies I'd set aside, and most importantly, I'm learning to trust my own perception of reality again after years of having it questioned. Thank you, Reddit, for being there during the darkest moments of this journey. Your support reminded me that I wasn't crazy for holding boundaries, that I deserved better than betrayal followed by demands, and that sometimes the hardest choice is the right one. Final update, 6 months later. It's been half a year since my life was turned upside down, and I promised many of you I'd share how things ultimately resolved. This will be my final update on this chapter of my life. The biggest news is that I'm doing well, really well, actually. The promotion I mentioned in my last update turned into an even bigger opportunity when a senior developer left the company. I now head a small team, and while the learning curve has been steep, it's been incredibly rewarding. I've maintained my boundaries with both Melissa and Jake. Neither are part of my life anymore, though I do hear about them occasionally through mutual friends. About 3 months ago, I finally agreed to meet Jake for coffee after he sent a persistent but respectful request saying he had something important to return to me. It was awkward, as expected, but also unexpectedly healing. He brought the signed baseball I mentioned in my last update, the one my dad gave me when I was 10 that I'd foolishly lent him years ago. He had it professionally cleaned and placed in a display case. "I know this doesn't fix anything," he said, sliding it across the table. "But I wanted you to have it back." We talked for about an hour. He's in therapy now too, working through what he calls his pathological need for validation that made him vulnerable to Melissa's manipulation. He's not dating anyone and has moved to a different neighborhood to get a fresh start. I told him honestly that while I appreciate his apology, I don't see us rebuilding our friendship. Too much trust,